like to welcome you all back to the Mr. Freemason channel. Thank you to everybody that took part in the poll and for your feedback. Your comments have helped to improve the channel and keep providing content that you like. In this video, we will take a look at well-known crime cases and the Freemason involvements. All my opinions are my own, and you should always follow up with your own research on topics and individuals concerned in these videos. And without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Tupac Shakur was a well-known famous rapper in the United States back in the 1990s. He tragically lost his life via a shooting back in 1996 on September the 7th when he stopped at a set of traffic lights while in a BMW with his manager, Suge Knight, in Las Vegas following a Mike Tyson fight. We will focus more on the backstory before Tupac's death and the connection with Freemasons. Tupac was part of Death Row, a music record label run by Marion Suge Knight and music produced by Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre was previously a member of a rap group called NWA. What is not common knowledge, though, is that the group NWA was signed and managed by Jerry Heller, a Jewish owner of Ruthless Records. When Dr. Dre decided he was not getting enough in royalties for his music and production, he left to join Suge Knight, who had decided to start Death Row Records. Death Row Records was owned by self-confessed Freemason and blood associate Suge Knight. It was started using the royalties for Ice Ice Baby by the music and rap artist Vanilla Ice after Suge hung him from a balcony upside down by his feet in order to sign over the royalties. Suge Knight, strangely, was never arrested or investigated by police for this. Jerry Heller was not very happy after Suge Knight had got Dr. Dre out of his contract with Ruthless Records after a visit to Jerry Heller's office. With several blood members armed with baseball bats and lead pipes, Dr. Dre was managed to get out of his contract with Ruthless Records via Suge Knight. This just left Eric Eazy-E Wright, the last member of the NWA signed to Ruthless Records owned by Jerry Heller. Eazy-E lost his life after suffering with AIDS, which Eric had contracted from nowhere, and suffered a very quick demise to his death, in the words of others around him.
Right.
Why the bulletproof vest?
Oh, it's not. Oh no, that's just it's the new style. You've been in the can for a while. This is what everybody. That's what all the talk show hosts are wearing.
This is a new thing, right?
Yeah.
See, if somebody gonna do something about it, see,
right.
Technology is so high, right?
Right.
So if you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. So the kids, you don't want to go to jail forever, right? So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time.
This was some sort of self-confession or a hint that Suge Knight had some involvement with Eazy-E's death. Suge Knight referred to Eric's death on the Jimmy Kimmel show as something of the Eazy-E thing.
They got this stuff they get blood from somebody with AIDS, and then they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
well, that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
The Eazy-E thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even when we take a look at the host who is interviewing Suge Knight, which is Jimmy Kimmel, he claims to be a Catholic. As I've stated in a few of my videos previously, the one thing Freemasons hate and despise, and even call vile in their own words and their handbooks, are atheists, Catholics and Christians. The fact that Jimmy Kimmel's show is held in Hollywood Masonic Temple clearly shows an indication of Jimmy Kimmel's alliance with the Freemasons, and the fact that he claims to be a Catholic is a lie. This is a lot like many Freemasons of the Jewish cabal. They try to distance themselves from their religion and Freemasonry so that you never find out.
Shakur is no stranger to violence. In November 1994, he was shot during a robbery at a Manhattan recording studio. $40,000 worth of jewelry was taken from him. He also has a rap sheet as long as some of his songs. In June, he faced a 120-day sentence for probation violations in New York and Los Angeles. He was allowed to remain free on bail. The violations included assault and battery, carrying a loaded gun, and a sex abuse conviction in which he spent 8 months in prison.
Notice the jacket that Tupac Shakur is wearing in this video and interview. Does anything look familiar?
This was his reaction after his latest conviction.
Nothing the court can do can punish me more than I've been punished already. In what way?
By being shot 5 times, twice in there. I mean, nothing the judge can tell me can make me not want to carry a gun more than getting shot.
We'd love anybody that saw the vehicle to be able to shoot, and then to escape. Have you received any anonymous phone calls at all, any tips at all that would provide anything? No, nothing. Let us make it clear that, you know, I still heard us. We're stopped by our bike officers and patrol officers who have been alerted because of the officers who went to Mexico, got on the radio, gave a description of this convoy of cars that was traveling at a high rate of speed after having heard shots fired down. There were no estimates given of speed.
Probably wasn't too fast because they had 2 flat tires on the BMW.
And it was heavy traffic still from the fight. But they consider a high rate of speed because everybody else was probably going very slow.
A major key factor to consider here is Jerry Huller, a suspected Mason, has connection and ties to the JDL. For those of you who don't know who the JDL are, they are the Jewish Defense League. In a self-admission by the JDL, they state out that their task is to protect the Jewish community at all costs, whether it be financially or personally. This information to date has appeared to have been buried and missed out. The importance of this information is because Jerry Heller had tried to sue Suge Knight and Dr. Dre previously, which had failed. Then leading up to Tupac losing his life, Jerry Heller then tried to intimidate and extort money from Tupac. When this also failed, it is believed Jerry Heller was absolutely furious due to the loss of revenue he was losing. It is then believed that he turned to a combination of the JDL and the Israeli Secret Service militant soldiers to carry out a job for him. Several weeks later, Tupac lost his life. In the recent reports of an arrest of Dwayne Keith D. Davis in the loss of life of Tupac Shakur, Dwayne admits to being in the vehicle of the shooter despite his arrest, but will still not disclose who actually pulled the trigger. Tupac had many police officers that would work for him legitimately, off-duty or illegitimately, and paid them in cash. On the night before the Vegas fight and Tupac losing his life, Tupac's bodyguards were told by a higher-up authority not to carry their weapons on them during the visit. Tupac is known not to have wanted to even go to the trip in Las Vegas, but he was convinced by Suge and others to go. Although there have been previous arrests in the past and now even lately, no one has been convicted or sentenced. Tupac is believed to have been a target, the same as the notorious B.I.G., who tragically lost his life 6 months later. The rapper pair have been in talks and discussions of going into the publication industry of other artists and their songs. This would have given them certain rights to royalties and would have made the pair the richest people in the rap music industry. Taking into consideration the speculation and secrecy surrounding the information presented in this video that has not been disclosed, it is a possible option that the hit on Tupac was carried out by an off-duty officer or a member of the JDL. If we fast forward to the present day, the rap music industry is mainly dominated by a white middle-aged man by the name of Lloyd Cohen, a self-confessed Mason and Satanic worshipper. He used to own and run Def Jam Records, another music label surrounding controversy and speculation regarding Jam Master Jay losing his life, when a random gunman ran into the studio while Jam Master Jay was recording at the time and opened fire, resulting in Jam Master Jay losing his life. Lloyd Cohen now runs Warner Brother Music Group, famous for having some of the most well-known rappers in the scene today. Lion come under the spotlight recently after one of his artists, known as Young Thug, was arrested for a firearms offence last year in 2022. Lion was tipped off by a police officer and maybe a fellow Mason, who informed him of Young Thug's pending future arrest. This is when Lion Cohen decided to draw £400 million from Young Thug's account with the record label 4 weeks prior to Young Thug having an arrest. This case is still ongoing. The Essex Boys case is a well-publicised case where 3 well-known criminals who were narcotic dealers lost their life via a shotgun in a Range Rover on a quiet country lane on December 6, 1995 in the UK. The 3 men were Tony Tucker, Pat Tate and Craig Rolfe. Without going into the case of the individuals, we will focus on a suspect that could have been responsible and their past affiliation to Freemasonry. One man that was put at the scene that could have pulled the trigger is well-known East End gangster with a reputation for using shotguns, the same weapon that was used in the Essex Boys case. That was one half of the brothers, called Billy Blundell, who fled to Spain after the hit. The other person concerned, who we are going to focus on though in this video, and the man in question, is a gentleman that goes by the name of Kenny Noye. This might sound familiar, as he is better known for the M25 highway brutal killing of Stephen Cameron in 1996. Kenneth Noye was released from prison on licence in 1994. Pat Tate, who stood at 6'3" and a 19-stone bodybuilder, befriended Kenneth Noye in prison, and he acted as a minder while they were both serving a sentence. After Pat Tate's release 6 weeks prior to the Range Rover incident, Kenneth Noye had met with Pat Tate on numerous occasions. After Pat Tate's release, Kenneth Noye was the financial backer and a benefactor of the profits from Pat Tate's illegal narcotic imports. Kenneth Noye was in the headlines in 1985 for taking the life of a police officer who'd snuck into Kenneth Noye's mansion grounds. Noye wounded the police officer fatally, but he was cleared of all charges at court under self-defence. Kenneth Noye was responsible for handling and distributing the gold in the famous Brinksmat heist in 1983. But when the police searched Kenneth Noye's home, the same home that John Ford, the police officer, had lost his life, Kenneth Noye became a Freemason in 1980 in January, when he became a member of the Hammersmith Lodge in London after being proposed for admission by 2 police officers, given his occupation as a builder. After Kenneth Noye and Pat Tate served time in prison, Pat Tate is said to have made a drunken narcotic-induced comment to Kenneth Noye's wife, who was a barrister's secretary who was in the local town centre clothes shopping. Pat Tate approached her and said, "Why are you with him? I'm a much better lover and I've got a much bigger penis. I've seen him in the showers in prison. He's tiny." When the 3 criminals, including Pat Tate, were ended their lives in the Range Rover, Pat Tate was supposed to have said to have been spared till the last, and words were spoken to him prior to him finally being ended in his life. Those words from a witness at the scene were said to be, "Who has a pencil dick now, pretty boy?" Kenneth Noye is rumoured to be the gunman. Kenneth Noye was said to have been furious at Pat Tate, who had lost the investment Noye had lent him due to the narcotics deal going wrong. Not returning Noye's money, Pat Tate finally got Noye's investment back, but then started to use it for investments to fund his future deals. Pat Tate would keep all the profits himself, and the final straw comment to Noye's wife broke the camel's back. You have to admire Kenneth Noye in such a way, because he was an entrepreneur since he was a child. He used to tell people at school that one day he would be a millionaire, and he started his own racketeering protection, even as a child at primary school. He then went on to take stolen bikes, refurbish them, recondition them, and then sell them at new as a profit. At the age of 28, he was a multi-millionaire. The clever sense of Kenneth Noy is shown in the fact that he invested in property in Spain. He bought a villa cheap, reconditioned it, inserted a pool, and made other luxury assessments to it. Under the UK law, they were not able to seize his assets in Spain. Therefore, while Kenneth Noy was doing his sentence in prison, he was earning roughly around 64,000 English pounds per year on the value of his property while serving his sentence inside, and there was nothing the UK authorities could do about it. The other interesting fact that not many other creators or videos have reported on is the house that sits on the hill, opposite where the three all lost their lives in the lane, that leads down to another country gate. The person that lives in this house is reported to be a Freemason and also a member of the Hells Angels. Two men who were responsible for the importation of the narcotics that the three dealers, Pat, Tony and Craig, then sold were Mickey Steele and Jack Wilmes. After serving 25-year sentence, still to this day both deny being at the scene or pulling the trigger. The policemen decided to ignore any other hypotheses, leads and information, and organised evidence and witnesses to fit around their narrative that the two men that they had arrested were responsible for the crime. Even when police officers investing the case had leads of who they thought were really responsible, they were told by officers higher up to leave it alone and not follow up on their hunches. There had been a rumour in the mainstream media and also on social media that the reason for the hit on the three men was due to one of the men being given a large sum of money to look after, due to 4 individuals serving a prison sentence for robbing a money vehicle. It was alleged there was £495,000 was given to Tony Tucker to look after, but yet when the appeal of the 4 prisoners of the armed robbery on the money van won their appeal and were released after 2 years, after being given a 10-year sentence, they asked the money back from Tony Tucker. When Tony Tucker was asked for the money back, Tony was unable to produce it, as he said he had it tied up in investments. He'd bought a bungalow and a Porsche 911, which he'd paid cash for. This brings Kenneth Noy into this part of the story, is because Kenneth Noy was known as the fixer and the launderer. He was very good at dispersing and distributing money that was dirty and making it clean, whether through businesses or investments. He was also known to be an enforcer. Alec Baldwin is the Oscar award-winning Hollywood actor. He hit the headlines back in October 21st, 2021 in Bonanza City in New Mexico. This is where Helena Hutchins, a cinema photographer, tragically lost her life on the film set of Rust.
Cock the gun, I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And she says, and then I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off.
Santa Fe prosecutors announcing they will charge actor Alec Baldwin with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter in that deadly 2021 shooting on the movie set of Rust.
This happened when Alec Baldwin fired a prop that was loaded with live rounds that hit Helena and Joel Soares. Joel was not seriously injured, but Helena lost her life. Alec, in the first instance, faced 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. We can hear in his own words how Alec cocked the weapon back, and then more, until it went off. Yet we hear from different evidence that would have been impossible without pulling the trigger.
By the way, congrats to Alec Baldwin. That just got ruled an accident.
It did?
It did.
When?
Recently.
I thought they said that he had to have pulled the trigger.
He did. Accidentally.
But he lied and he said he didn't pull the trigger.
People get nervous.
Taryn Butler from Taryn Tactical.
Yeah.
What does this say here? Medical investigator rules Baldwin set shooting an accident. Well, of course, he's not trying to kill that lady in front of everybody. I understand why they're saying, but that doesn't mean he wasn't negligible. Just because it was an accident.
What did the guy from Terran Tactical say?
It's impossible for that gun to shoot. He showed me the gun. I have a
Right.
video of it. I was like, I don't want to start trouble and
Right.
release this. But in the video, he has the gun. Not the actual gun, but the same model gun.
Yeah.
And he's showing how the action on this works. And he's like, it's not possible for the hammer to go forward and just accidentally fire. And he like cocks it back
Yeah.
and shows how it works. He's like, you have to engage the trigger. And he's like showing everybody in this video how it works.
He probably had Alec probably had the gun in his hand, and it's just kind of fun to pull the trigger.
Attorney releasing this statement, quote, "This decision distorts Helena Hutchins' tragic death and represents a terrible miscarriage of justice. Mr. Baldwin had no reason to believe there was a live bullet in the gun or anywhere on the movie set." The film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, her attorney fired back saying that Baldwin is the sole person responsible for this incident. He rejected training. He pointed the gun, pulled the trigger without the armorer being present.
When we look at Alec Baldwin himself and his roots, we find out he's from New York, but his heritage and faith in later life has been unclear until now in this excerpt. Alec clearly shows what faith he believes in and follows, and who he supports. Could this be a reason as to why the outcome of this inquiry with regards to involuntary manslaughter charges were then dropped, and no further action was taken against Alec Baldwin?
Mr. Baldwin, can you say something for the Jewish channel?
Come over here, you. Let's talk to the Jewish channel.
Alec Baldwin was just one of many New York icons to show up for the 100th anniversary celebration of Barney Greengrass, a dairy food store with a decidedly Jewish tradition. Indeed, it's so special that some non-Jews seem eager to join the tribe, if just for the food.
I just want to say, and I say this only, I'm saving this for the Jewish channel. Come over here. Come over here, Tatala. I've been mishpacha with the Greengrass family for many years now. And I've known them for years. Mo, Gary, went to school with Barney. And I've enjoyed my meals. I am the third Greengrass. I'm the Shagets' son in the Greengrass family. His mother went off the reservation one day. She was over in Ireland there, you know. She had a few beers and, you know, things happen. You're never 3 beers away from another child.
But it's no joke. Baldwin seemed just like so many of the Greengrass clientele.
In the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them, never.
You have to stop and ask yourself, if this was you, do you think you would have got the same treatment? When cases like this arise and the outcome is not normal and leaves you scratching your head, sometimes you have to go deeper than just scratching the surface. After 15 months of stalling and in delays in procedure, the period of time had expired after members of the prosecution being reshuffled and cherry-picked. It was decided that no charges and no case would be brought against Alec Baldwin. Other important information was buried until now, as Helena Hutchins was working on a project outside of Hollywood on her own production. This was to expose certain individuals in the Hollywood industry and the elite. This was classed as a rumour and not credible by the mainstream, or by Hollywood. But the mainstream media did cover the story of her being harassed and pursued by predators and sexists in the Hollywood industry. The McCanns are known as the parents of the missing child Madeleine McCann, who went missing in Près de la Luz on May 3rd, 2007. Many would have heard of the Tapas 7, the other adults that were staying on holiday with their children who were holidaying with the McCanns. The things we will focus on are the Tapas 7, the other people staying at the resort, 2 different villas, Sigmund Freud's son, and associates. Madeleine McCann is the missing 3-year-old girl who it is claimed was snatched from an apartment while on holiday with her parents on May 3rd, 2007 in Portugal, in Près de la Luz. The other members who were holidaying with the McCanns were known as the Tapas 7. They consisted of couples who were either doctors or in the medical industry. They were all able to get time off work to holiday together with the McCanns. One gentleman who was brought into question by the police was Dr. David Payne, who was one of the Tapas 7. It is alleged he made gestures of a sexual nature to Jerry McCann while in a private discussion with Jerry McCann that was overheard. This is said to have been regarding Madeleine. Then there was the witness interview of David Payne, who in his own words, Madeleine was a pretty little girl, very doll-like. You could have had a lot of fun with her. These transcripts are available on the Portuguese website, as this falls under different laws and procedures to the UK regarding data protection and evidence. One piece of evidence was a witness who stated she heard Kate McCann shouting that had taken her. Did Kate McCann know of the pending interest in Madeleine? Then there was the other guests that were staying at the holiday complex at the Praia de Luz, and not the Tapa 7. It is well known that there were bankers, BBC employees, TV staff, and many other people from different industries that were all British. Then there was the two villas in question. One was 150 yards away from where Madeleine disappeared. This villa belonged to Robert Murat, who was currently staying there with his mother Jenny. Police searched the villa, but at a later date, the freshly laid driveway with the skip carefully placed on it that drew little attention by the police searching would start to raise eyebrows, especially after discovering Robert Murat's interests with sexual encounters with children and animals. He would become to be known as the English expat that befriended the McCanns and became their translator and interpreter. The other villa was never searched or brought into question. That villa belonged to the parental advisor and author Sigmund Freud's son, Clement Freud. Sigmund Freud, who was his father and the author of a parenting advice book, but his comments of children that reported abuse by that of a parent were classed as fictitious and fantasy, or beyond reasoning. His son, who the villa belonged to, was Clement Freud, a disgraced British Member of Parliament who was ousted and disgraced for being a child abuser. Clement Freud is said to have had two guests staying at the time of Madeleine's abduction. These were the well-known Podesta brothers. The Podesta brothers were American, and they were very high up in the White House, and were very good friends with convicted child abuser against boys, American politician Dennis Hastert. The McCanns are said to have visited the villa 2 weeks after Madeleine's disappearance. Clement Freud is said to have asked Kate McCann what part of the alcoholic, fiery, nymphomaniac part is true. None of this information was in the mainstream media, or in any documentaries on TV. Neither was the fact that Jerry and Kate McCann had been given the keys to the local church. On discovering Madeleine had disappeared, a witness said that she heard Kate McCann yelling, "The bees have taken her." The information shown draws more to a conclusion that poor Madeleine may have been used in some sort of child abuse ring, or could have been part of some ritual or sacrifice, as it is known that rituals can be conducted with real people or props that look like bodies. The McCanns are two of the highest ranking doctors in the UK. Jerry is said to have worked a lot on famous people and important people, such as the royal family. This would explain why the McCanns lived in the same street as Gordon Brown's brother and were able to ring 10 Downing Street after Madeleine McCann's disappearance and be put through straight away to the Prime Minister. The McCanns clearly had a lot of power and leverage, but why? One theory is tied to the Princess Diana losing her life, but the process that followed afterwards. Under French law, embalming of a body is illegal before an autopsy has been carried out, but with Diana this was ignored and she was embalmed regardless. Embalming destroys the internal organs and any evidence of pregnancy. Diana is said to have been seeing an Indian doctor at the time of losing her life, and not Dodi Al-Fayed. Therefore, no French doctor would embalm anybody before an autopsy, because it would have been against French law. But that is not to say that an English one wouldn't, and who is protected and governed by the Masons, not by law. Nicola Bulley is the lady in the UK that went missing in a river in Lancashire and was found 3 weeks later. I have already covered some different angles and theories already in other videos on this channel, but like many of these cases, there is always something new. Since the police inquest in the Nicola Bulley case, there have been a lot more questions than answers. The first one was the lack of corresponding information from the inquest, a Fitbit that still managed to record a heart rate for 6 days, and colours of items such as golden yellow bows and royal red blue gloves. These are the Freemasons' colours, and are the same colours as on the Ukraine flag and the Eurovision Song Contest winners Sweden, which is why next year the Eurovision Song Contest will be held in Sweden, which coincides with the 50th celebration anniversary of ABBA. Another factor was reporting of the inquest, which was held over a 2-day period. This was covered by private security that has now been disclosed as Paul's friend after photos appeared of the two seen together at events prior to Nicola Bulley's disappearance. The members of the public were denied access to the funeral, but one person who was allowed to report on social media backed whatever narrative he saw fit, with no criticism from anybody else as the public weren't allowed in. That person is retired ex-Metropolitan Police officer and now a founder of a company that works with children who have been abused, Mark William Thomas. Although Mark Williams Thomas left the Metropolitan Police to start a company to raise awareness and help children as a result of abuse, it appears from all his TV interviews and appearances that whenever there is a criminal case or a missing person that is surrounded in public scrutiny and speculation, Mark Williams Thomas is always there in the spotlight to give his opinion to report to the public. He also claims to have exposed Jimmy Savile, but only once he was not alive. During the Metropolitan Police years that Mark Williams Thomas worked for, and the years of reports from victims, this was never exposed, and it was only exposed once Jimmy Savile was no longer here. If you understand that when celebrities or figures refer to the establishment, they are referring to no other than the Freemasons, and many in the UK belonging to the Cabal and the Maltese Knighthood, Templar Brotherhood. In the Masons' own words, it is your duty to cover and protect your fellow Masons' crimes at all costs, even if this means committing perjury. Although perjury is illegal, you are still upholding the Brotherhood Code and oath. In other words, you are offered protection for all your crimes and punishments until not alive anymore, and nothing else can be done, because you cannot face any punishment or justice. I'd like to thank you for your time and for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the content. Please feel free to leave your comments underneath in the comment section and give the video a thumbs up, and I will see you all in the next video.